Some sad news today. Legendary Kwaito musician and TKZ member Tokolo Magesh Shabalala has died. Now, it's understood Magesh passed away this morning when he was having an epileptic seizure. Shabalala was one of Kwaito's most renowned musicians, famously known for his songwriting and rapping. His family has asked for privacy during this difficult time. The details of his memorial and funeral service is going to be shared in due course. Now, the results of Kenya's elections are in. William Ruto has just been elected the 5th president of Kenya with just over 50% of the vote. The announcement was made by the country's electoral commission just a little earlier today. Ruto beat former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. All right, let's head to the USA now for an update on author Salman Rushdie, who was stabbed multiple times on Friday just before he was about to deliver a lecture in New York. The suspect, 24-year-old Hadi Matar, who was wrestled to the ground by audience and staff members during the attack, has pleaded not guilty. Now, in 1989, the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khomeini, issued a fatwa or death sentence against Rushdie after the publication of his book, The Satanic Verses. I'm joined now from Washington by correspondent Jagruti Dave. Jagruti, thank you so much for joining us. I wonder if you could give us the very latest on Salman Rushdie's condition after the attack on Friday.
Yeah, his son had tweeted over the weekend saying that his father had been taken off a ventilator and that his humour was exhibiting itself. So there was some sort of positive news from his son there, who also thanked the people who'd come to his father's aid when that attack happened on Friday. His agent, Andrew Wiley, had said that he is on the road to recovery, but he warned that that road would likely be a long one. He had previously warned that Salman Rushdie could potentially lose an eye as a result of his injuries.
So the suspect has pleaded not guilty. Talk to me about the latest on the charges and the court process.
Yeah, so the charge that he has pleaded not guilty to charges of assault and attempted murder. He is due to appear in court at some point this week. There is no motive, according to the police, that can be ascribed just yet, so they're clearly working to find that out. But what we do know about him is that he was born in the United States. His family emigrated here from southern Lebanon. That's according to a local official who's been reported in the media. There's also been reports that he has expressed some kind of affinity for extremism, for Shia-based extremism and for support for Iran. But most recently we've heard from the foreign ministry spokesperson in Iran, who has said who has distanced the country from this attack, saying that it categorically denies any links with the alleged attacker Hadi Matar.
All right, so that's interesting because the fatwa, of course, was imposed by the supreme leader of Iran in 1989 after the Satanic Verses was published. But then there were signs that Iran had sort of pulled back from that. But there was still like a $3 million bounty on Salman Rushdie's head. So just exactly what is Iran's position? What have you been able to understand about the status of the fatwa?
Yeah, I think, as you were saying, that Iran had effectively distanced itself from this edict that it had issued in 1989. That was a year after the Satanic Verses was published in 1988. And Salman Rushdie lived in hiding for almost a decade after this. Now, Iran had distanced itself from this edict. A related organisation had put a bounty of 3 million, upped the bounty to 3 million. And, you know, there are some academics who are saying that actually this edict in itself wasn't really that religiously motivated. It was an attempt by Ayatollah Khomeini, the leader, the religious leader at the time, to kind of gain some sort of political momentum when he saw that that book had sparked protests in parts of the world, including South Asia. So I think it's very, very complicated, the issue of the fatwa. And, you know, Salman Rushdie, as I say, he spent almost a decade in hiding, but then he moved to the United States, and he had said that, you know, he had to go on living his life. So he had tried to live pretty openly. And this fatwa, this, again, it's unclear whether this latest attack has any actual connection to this fatwa. That is still to be determined. But, he'd been living pretty openly here in the United States. So I think because of how long ago it was, him being attacked, Salman Rushdie being attacked, has come as quite a shock.
Absolutely. And if you look at the history of attacks on people who speak out or make any sort of comment often on the Islamic faith, the 2015 deadly attacks in Paris on the Charlie Hebdo magazine, the murder of the French school teacher Samuel Paty. What are people who protect media freedom and freedom of expression actually saying the impact of this attack might be? Bearing in mind, as you say, we're not 100% sure of the motive at this point, but do you think it could have a chilling effect? Is that what people who watch media freedom are saying?
Yeah, I think that is definitely part of the conversation. Look, the satanic verses, after they were published, after the book was published, sparked a huge debate about freedom of expression amongst artists, but generally what free speech means. And that has been reignited once again with this stabbing. And a lot of people are sort of saying that tying this to this idea of we're living in an era where cancel culture is prevailing, and this is an extreme example of cancel culture. There are others who are saying that, well, there is a difference between between kind of talking about what causing offence, for example, and deciding to no platform a speaker. There's all these wider debates about the limits of freedom of speech. That is all being thrown back into the spotlight because of this. Then there are questions about how vociferously, in the West at least, freedom of speech can be defended, but also those lines at which we decide, well, there's freedom of speech and then there's hate speech, and where those lines lie, because you obviously want one but not the other. So yeah, this attack has definitely reignited a very, very complex debate about freedom of expression here in the United States, but clearly in many other countries around the world as well.
Well, thank you so much for chatting to us this evening and giving us that update. That's a Washington correspondent, Jagruti Dave, telling us, of course, Salman Rushdie recovering in hospital off the ventilator, but a very serious attack that he had to deal with on Friday night. Now, still to